the new feminist movement is about not being super serious. Because when you have true power, you do whatever you want, like men who cook, okay? And, we say what we want and do what we want and kind of like, who cares, And that's really the new trend in feminism. But there's also a really practical thing that I think you and I both do with Success in the City and the Hot Mamas Project, which is like, raise your hand if you're so overwhelmed by information, right?
Raise both hands, both hands.
I just want to cry. And this is memorable. A memorable name is memorable. It cuts through the noise, and if I have to do that to get the message across, I'm going to do it. And when we first started, before we had all these very she judges and she awards and all this stuff and this do-gooder stuff, we got a couple pieces of email that were, I laugh now, but I just remember having that adrenaline rush, when you're almost in a car accident or you're like, whew, and you just miss that. And oh my gosh. And I was at a conference. I was at actually Blog Her DC, and I got this letter from this woman in Portland who just assumes, I don't know what, a robot is reading this at the end of our support at hotmamasproject.org. And I was so upset, but then I did exactly what you said. I tried to laugh, and I tried to, and the staff and I were sort of circulating it, and then I responded to it.
That is great. And I just read this recently because my husband always gets upset with me because you can send 100 emails to me complimenting what we do at Success in the City or what I've done or what I was wearing or anything, but I get one sentence of something negative, I am on the floor, devastated. And my husband goes, now, do you ever just read what you showed me all these things, and then this one thing from this person you don't know has now ruined my life? Actually, he's ruining his life because I'm fussing about it. But but I read this recently, and I thought this was a brilliant idea for somebody who's a blogger. And she said, what you should do is keep a journal, and she just does it on her in WordPress every single day. Anything complimentary that's said to her, about her, that's referred to her, she posts that in this journal so that anytime somebody says something negative, she goes back to this positive feedback. That's what, because I think we're very sensitive to criticism.
Well, women neurologically value, the way we come out with 2 X chromosomes, we value nothing more. Almost nothing is more important to us than relationships. And so that may change over time, like, I don't know what, if you are, there's this concept of neuroplasticity and that you actually can change your pathways, your neural pathways and all this kind of stuff. But we come out that way, and it matters more. It hits harder. It's not a BB gun. It's like one of those exploding things that they talk about. Well, I don't know. I don't know why I'm using this analogy even. But yeah, it hurts. And it's also this concept of the 1%. So 99% could be great. But if 1% is bad and it hits at that Achilles heel, which is, let's say, relationships, because we judge, not to stereotype everybody here, but in general, women will judge their success by the success of their community, whatever your community is. And so if a member of the community expresses severe unhappiness, then your success level is, you don't perceive it as high anymore. And so it's sort of like caring about relationships, good for the survival of our species, yes, and then paying attention to the one email where somebody woke up on the wrong side of the bed and is like transitioning to decaf. And so let's like draw that dividing line for ourselves, because we all know women could run a small country, women could run a big country. And when we first started the Hot Mamas Project, I had the mailing list already, sort of begging and pleading with people to write their case studies. And it was for all women. And I said, you know what? You know those minutes where you're just like, am I going to do this or not? Yes or no? And I said, okay, yes, I'm going to send it to the men also. Do you know that we got some of the most raving referrals, incredibly positive referrals from men? They were the most amazing cheerleaders. They wrote back, my wife, my sister, oh my gosh, she's great. And I thought, this is awesome.
I think this is so true. I think that, especially I think coming from my generation, always believed it's us against them. And it's not us against them. Men are your greatest, can be your greatest allies and supporters. I would not be doing what I do. I would not be where I am. I would not live the life I live if it was not for the men who gave me the lens into life. And so I think we need to stop that discussion, because you do. I think you make yourself a victim. You know, it's like they're empowered. Men don't go around going, power. I've got the club. See, I've got that club here. men want
your hair's not.
I mean, men. They have
yeah,
exactly.
That's not what they're thinking.
No. They have mothers. They have sisters. They see women's powers. If they have a mother, they know a woman's power.
Yeah.
You know, they know that a woman's word can cut you to your knees, make you feel terrible. So they understand that. So I think we need to stop this like it's their holding us back. The problem is men. It is not. And the minute you put that on men, what happens is you just hand over your power.
Yeah.
My husband doesn't want me to be powerless. He doesn't want me to be subjugated to him. It'd be the funniest thing in the world anyway. So,
I know. That would be great. I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. And I mean, everything that we do is with the Hot Mamas Project and with our seminars it's very pro us. It's not anti anybody else. And if anything, it's anti some of the negative self-talk that we have, because there are a few negative behaviors that women engage in. But I do.
Yeah. Okay. I want to know some of those. You have to tell some of those.
But going back to the spouse thing or life partner thing, where you log the most hours, it's important to have the best support structures you can. And so this is where you can make a choice. Okay. Let's be honest. I mean, so if you're in a bad relationship, or you're in a bad job, that is going to make a difference. And no amount of pep talking and this and that is really going to change that. You know, it would be a fabulous accomplishment if you could move through all those things to be incredibly successful and happy. But chances are it's going to be a real uphill battle. So make the best choices you can with people that support you at home and at work. And if it's not that way, try to slowly make changes to be able to have that, because that's the foundation of the house, off of, you know, what we're talking about building here, which is what we all want to do. We all just want to be happy. We want to be successful. And most importantly, I think women need to define their own success. This is where we do need to have a bit of a departure, I believe, from a very male, which I say, typically male definition of success, which doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that you make life really tough for yourself if you compare yourself to this, which is I am going up without interruption throughout my career path and throughout my financial growth path. And then there's this big trend in academia, you know, God forbid it actually like get out to Us Magazine or something that people actually read, or at least I do. I mean, hey, I love it. I love the trash. I can't help it. And, you know, it's the non-linear career path. This is what's happening. We're the generation that's doing that. Probably the people in this room are doing it right now. And that needs to be told. And that's a huge reason, actually, why we started the Hot Mamas Project, to validate the women who are taking the pieces of the puzzle, putting it on the ground, smushing it, picking it back up, and re-putting it together again, and saying, you know what, that kind of works. But a lot of folks don't know that now, and they beat themselves up over it every day.
I think that's so true, because I think that if ever we judge what we're doing, our success, where we're going, by the person next to us, we're never authentic to what we should be doing, where we're going,
right,
and what we should accomplish, because everybody has their own role, passion, necessity they need to do. And you don't have to emulate, but it's great to have tips. But I think that that's so true. I like the analogy that men generally get to do this, but it's even beginning to shift now. Some men are taking steps out and telling their wives, you take this path. I'm going to take the path where I'm going to have the interruptions in my career.
Right.
And it can work. And I think one of the things I've learned is that because we have longer life expectancy now, we will not only can, we will in our lifetimes have 3 careers minimum. And I think it creates this perfect environment. What about the entrepreneurial mindset and the attitude? What have you discovered there?
Women as entrepreneurs is one of the most critical things I think that women can do to change this dynamic that's going on where we're unsure. And it can change us from being unsure to sure. And so an example is, you know, this versus this. It's this, you know, a story is, from my personal life is, I used to make all the money, basically. My husband is an entrepreneur, and when I got out of business school, He had just expanded. He was in 2 warehouses. They were stretched thin with cash. I mean, it was tough, and he worked with his brother. And, I was supportive because we're both business junkies. And I said, that's okay. Like, I'll make the money now while you invest it back in your business. And then maybe we'll switch or even out or whatever. And so then he started making more money. And then I had the kids. And then we have 2 kids. And then I worked less. And so he was making all the money. And then he said, maybe we'll switch back again. And I said, I have 0 intention of ever going full-time again. I said, my goal is to make full-time money at a part-time rate. And I started this blog called Building a $1 Million Business Part-Time, because that's my way of putting the pieces on the ground, smushing it, and bringing it back together. Because, I mean, raise your hand if you're just wickedly precise with your time management. I mean, if you are, so some people, okay, there are those of us in the world, right? And we need to share those lessons. I'm like ruthless with my time management. And so I can do so much more in less time. And why go back, And I had a really great option when I was first starting my first business, which was a consulting business with the original Hot Mamas, who were women who worked with me part-time on projects. And now we have great organizations like Momentum Resources. That's literally all they do. For those of you who know Jennifer Folsom, they find part-time work for women. And so my point was...
So we were talking about the fact that you told your husband, because he said he wanted you to go back. Maybe he wanted to take a break. So you were going to come back.
I'm like, that's not going to happen. And so, he didn't get it 5 years, but, and then 5 years now he gets it. You know that when you have those talks and you're like, you're going to get it soon. I'm just going to stay quiet, And so now he gets it. And now, for a while, 2010 was the year where we actually both worked part-time. And Monday and Friday morning, we took off and we'd go on a walk. And we'd come back and do P90X up in the kids' playroom, And like, it was fun. And go to Starbucks and stuff, And then we'd start working. And so we worked 3.5, 4 days each week and just jammed it in there. Because, email, geez, I could just wipe it out, save half day.
Recently read, somebody projected that in the 1950s, because of advances in technology, this is pre-internet and all the things that we have now, they projected that we would work as Americans 20 hours a week and be challenged with finding things to do to fill the time. I think they were off on that a great deal. It's trying to find the time to have nothing to do. And I say this to people I speak with all the time. Every single American needs to own a business. Now, that does not mean if you work for the government, you can't be sitting in your office and doing that. But as we begin to see a shift, what happens is easy to form a business. It takes nothing to set up a simple LLC.
Or even a sole proprietorship. Here's how you set up a sole proprietorship. Ready? I'm in business. There. That's it. Yeah. That's it. You literally need to do nothing. Set up a sole proprietorship. It just, comes out on your taxes and your Schedule C.